Are you curious what's going on in the local real estate market for March 2023? Well, I'm here to tell you right now. Hey, I'm Adam D with the Local Connect and KW Realty, and one of the most common questions we get is, how's the market? Well, I'm about to tell you right now what I'm seeing boots on the ground here at the South Jersey Shore. So we're in a really interesting time in the market. The last 4 transactions I've been dealing with have all been multiple offer situations, despite the fact that more news has come out that interest rates will probably rise further. Although, you hear me say it all the time that inventory has stayed very low. We have not seen an influx of new listings coming on the market, and because of that low inventory, we're still seeing a very competitive market with multiple offer situations very common, particularly on those nice condition properties. Everybody's been waiting out for more inventory or the spring market to hit, more houses to hit the market. We have not seen it whatsoever. And we'll see what happens with interest rates, because I do think they're going to go up a little bit further. That's what the most recent news and Fed data is pointing towards, but that remains to be seen. So let's dig into the numbers now and take a look at exactly what's happening. So here's another way to look back at inventory, how we ended 2022. And when we keep hearing about people asking if prices are going down, keep hearing me talk about how that cannot happen unless inventory goes up, right? So you can look at back in the housing market crash, we'll call it, of 08, when inventory was much higher. These are months of inventory. So example, in 08, we had 10 plus months of inventory. During that time, on average, we had 4.4% average depreciation. Prices came down, right? And as inventory has come down, appreciation has gone up further. So I'm showing you this just so you keep in mind that for prices to come down, we're going to need to see inventory get up over 6 months, right? That's kind of considered a balanced market. Right now, we're still in the 2 to 3 month range for inventory. So it's going to have to more than double for us to actually see prices come down. Even in historical times where there was 4 to 5 months of inventory, we still saw a healthy amount of appreciation. And now we're all frustrated by how high mortgage rates are compared to recent history. But if we look back at some of the historical trends for interest rates, we're really at a time where I'd hate to say it, where they're not crazy high compared to the rest of history. So, this graph goes all the way back to 1972, but if we look back to around 1989 or so, the average mortgage rate was about 6%. And that's kind of where things are hovering right now. They're just over that. And, they probably will go a little bit higher. And so we might get back to that 7.8% number. That's kind of the historical average going all the way back to 1972. So I just want to put things in relevancy a little bit, that we're not going to see those 2 to 3% rates that we saw again, that we saw 2 years ago. It's just probably not going to happen barring some major economic change. It's probably more likely that we're going to be in this range of averages that we've seen over the history of the United States. And we all know the reason that we're seeing all these rate increases is because of inflation. And one of the things I found interesting was, housing inflation is not the worst thing, right? So there's been a lot of things that have actually had higher inflation than housing. So while everybody thinks that housing prices are out of control, and I don't disagree with you, but other things have, increased in cost a lot more than housing. So you can see food and beverage, hourly wages, medical care, and child care, all that stuff has increased even further. But technology has actually gone down, right? So how cheap is a television now compared to what it was when, those flat screen TVs first came out? And this is probably a better way to put this in perspective. So what we did was we took the numbers for how much a car, gas, house, or hourly wage costs in 1989, and then used inflation to adjust what that would be in today's dollars. So for example, 1989, a gallon of gas was $2.38, compared to in 2022, it was $3.95, right? So you see that that increased about 66%. But a mortgage price actually only increased about 3% when you look at it in real dollars, right? When we account for inflation. So the cost of cars, gas, hourly wages has actually increased more than housing does. So as much as we think those crazy prices of housing right now, everything else has actually increased even more. I shouldn't say everything, but a lot of things have, right? And here's another look at inventory, right? So the number of homes for sale has increased, but it's still much lower than it was even in 2017, 2019. So our memory is so short term, we're so focused on what happened just 2 years ago, but if we look back a little bit further, inventory is still significantly lower compared to where it was in 2017, 18, and 19. And some of the data I use is not just here for New Jersey, right? So across the country, we actually have had a decline in February of inventory. Just about every state, I think minus Hawaii, has had a negative inventory, or less homes coming onto the market. And just one more way to look at this, right? This is existing home sales. And so the number of homes selling has declined, right? So inventory is down, but also the number of homes selling. That's why you're seeing some of these headlines about banks and mortgage companies and title companies having layoffs, because there's less transactions, there's fewer houses selling. Now, one more thing I wanted to show you today, you might find this interesting. So this is showings, or a number of buyers walking through the door in the last 30 days, right? And you can see there's a ton of buyers looking in 250 to 500,000, a lot in that $500,000 to 750, and even just under $1 million. And if you look at the graph here, it shows that there's not a whole lot going on in the upper price ranges. Well, yeah, relative to the lower price ranges, but when I look at the actual numbers, right? So if you had a house under 250,000, you're getting on average about 9 showings, right? And just in the last month, there was 881 total showings. But even these higher price points, 2 million to 2.5 million, these they're getting quite a few showings here, right? And you had, almost 40 showings total here just in that price range. So what I'm showing this for is that there's a lot of buyers out there looking right now. There's a lot of showings, and this doesn't account for all of the showings. This is just for the brokers that use an electronic system, which a lot of the mom and pop shops don't use electronic systems to calculate and look at their showings. So there are a lot of buyers out looking right now and just not a lot of inventory. So if you have a house and you're thinking about selling, it's still a great time to sell given the fact that these other homeowners are getting so many showings. So that's a quick look at exactly what we're seeing here in the real estate market for March 2023. If you need help buying or selling a home, please feel free to click the link below. We'll be happy to help. If you like what you're seeing, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. That way you're alerted of the next video we put out with more real estate news for the South Jersey Shore. I'm Adam D with Keller Williams, and I'll see you on the next video.